Ladies and gentlemen, you see, everybody wants your time until your time becomes valuable. Everybody wants your energy until you start protecting it like your life depends on it. And let me tell you something, it does. When you quiet the noise, you can finally hear your purpose. It's as simple and as profound as that. We live in a world that thrives on distractions, notifications, obligations, endless conversations that go nowhere, and people constantly pulling at your attention. It's a storm of voices, opinions, and expectations that can drown out the one voice that truly matters, your own. But when you become unreachable, when you pull back from that noise, something powerful starts to happen. You begin to hear yourself, not the version that plays nice or keeps up appearances, the real you, the one with vision, desire, purpose. Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the space where clarity grows. And when you're always reachable, always responding, always on, you're reacting more than you're creating. And reaction is the enemy of intention. Silence gives you the room to ask real questions. Who am I becoming? What do I really want? Is this path mine or someone else's? You can't answer those in chaos. But in the stillness, everything becomes clearer. Most people are afraid of silence because they don't know what they'll hear. But that's exactly why you need it. You have to face yourself. You have to get quiet enough to recognize the difference between your calling and the noise of expectation. That moment when you stop explaining yourself to the world and start listening to the world inside you, that's when alignment begins. You start to walk differently, think differently. You begin to move with intention, not impulse. And look, silence isn't about isolation forever. It's not about disappearing to prove a point. It's about recalibration. It's about being unreachable long enough to hear the whisper of your own destiny. It's about stepping away from the world long enough to come back to yourself. Because when you reconnect with your center, you become dangerous. Not to others, but to the doubt, the hesitation, the fear that used to run your life. That's when your moves become deliberate. That's when your choices reflect your future, not your past. So when you stop responding to everything, don't feel guilty. That's not cold. That's clarity. That's you choosing what matters over what's popular. That's you silencing the world so your purpose can speak. And when it does, everything else will fall in line. People may not understand your silence now, but they'll respect your results later. Because greatness doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be seen. It grows in quiet rooms, in unshared moments, in the sacred space of silence. When you become unreachable, you're not running away, you're tuning in. You're not hiding, you're sharpening. And that silence, that peace, that's where transformation lives. Not every call deserves an answer. That's a truth you come to learn when your time starts to mean something. In the beginning, you may feel obligated to respond to everything: texts, calls, invitations, drama. You think being available makes you loyal, makes you dependable, makes you kind, but the harsh reality is that constant availability makes you expendable. It sends a message that your time doesn't belong to anything greater than the next distraction, that anyone can pull you out of focus, out of your lane, out of your mission, and you'll go. But once you start elevating, once you begin to value your energy, you see things differently. You realize not every ring of the phone is an opportunity. Sometimes it's a detour. Not every, hey, you got a minute, actually deserves a minute. And not every person that reaches out is reaching for your well-being. Some just want access. Not your insight, not your growth, just access. They want to borrow your energy to charge up their own chaos. And the moment you start protecting your space, they call it ego. They say you've changed. But you haven't changed. You've just woken up. You've come to understand that your time is currency, and where you spend it determines your future. You stop picking up the phone for conversations that go in circles. You stop replying to messages that feel more like traps than talks. Because every yes to them is a no to something you were supposed to build. And every distraction you entertain keeps you from becoming who you're supposed to be. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start choosing. You choose what aligns with your peace. You choose what matches your purpose. You no longer give your energy out of guilt or habit. You give it with intention. And that shift right there, that's freedom. There are people who will test your boundaries just to see if they still have access to the old you. They'll press, guilt, manipulate. You're acting different, and you are. Because now, before you answer, you ask yourself, is this conversation helping me grow? Does this serve where I'm going? Or am I just keeping old patterns alive? You begin to answer fewer calls, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You stop explaining your silence because people who respect your boundaries won't need they'll understand that silence isn't distance, it's discipline. And the more you practice it, the more you realize how powerful your no really is. There's a peace that comes with not reacting, a strength that comes from not needing to prove you're available. The people who truly value you will respect your space. The ones who don't were only there for the access, not the journey. And so not every call deserves an answer, because not every voice deserves a seat in your mind. Sometimes the greatest progress comes not from the conversations you have, but from the ones you don't. Growth requires isolation. The idea of isolation often gets a bad reputation, as it's commonly associated with loneliness or rejection, but true growth, the kind that lasts, doesn't come from the comfort of being constantly surrounded by others. It comes from the ability to retreat into yourself, to be alone with your thoughts, your struggles, your ambition. It's in these moments of solitude that you can begin to see who you really are and what you're truly capable of. Isolation doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world completely. It means choosing the right moments to step back and focus on what matters most. In a world where we're constantly connected, where there's always a demand for our attention, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. We get caught up in everyone else's expectations, their dreams, their voices. We start to live more for others than for ourselves. And when that happens, our growth stalls. We can't move forward because we're too busy keeping up with everyone else. But growth demands space, space to think, space to reflect, space to make mistakes and learn from them. You can't do that when you're always reacting to the world around you. Sometimes you have to step away from the noise, from the distractions, and get quiet enough to hear what's going on inside you. It's in these moments of isolation that you can tap into your own strength and find the courage to take the next step. It's where clarity comes, where your true desires and purpose become visible. Isolation forces you to confront your own thoughts. Without the noise of others, you can no longer hide from yourself. The excuses start to fall away, and what you're left with is raw, unfiltered truth. You see the things you've been avoiding, the areas of your life that need attention, the patterns that no longer serve you. And while that truth can be uncomfortable, it's also the key to real growth. It's the moment you decide to change, to break free from your old habits, your old way of thinking, and to step into something new. In isolation, you also build resilience. When you're alone with your thoughts, you learn how to rely on yourself. You don't have others to lean on, to get advice from, to make decisions for you. You're forced to trust your instincts, to develop your own judgment, and to stand on your own 2 feet. This is where you become self-sufficient. This is where your true power emerges, when you no longer need the approval or validation of others because you've already found your own strength. When you learn to embrace isolation as a tool for growth, you begin to see it for what it really is, an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to refocus, and to make sure you're moving in the direction that's right for you. You stop following the crowd and start following your own path. And when you come out of that isolation, when you re-enter the world, you do so with clarity, purpose, and an unwavering sense of self. You've grown, you've evolved, and now you're ready to face whatever comes next, stronger and more determined than ever. People will misunderstand you. And that's something you need to come to terms with. As you grow, as you begin to step into your full potential and start protecting your time, energy, and focus, some people will have trouble understanding why you're changing. They'll look at you and wonder why you're not the same person you once were. Why aren't you showing up for everything like you used to? Why are you less available, less eager to please, less accommodating? They might say you've become distant, detached, even arrogant. And that's the challenge you have to face, their misunderstanding. The truth is, when you begin to prioritize your own growth, your own purpose, and your own well-being, you automatically stop being the person you were before. The version of you that constantly said yes to everything, that always sought validation, that lived to please others, that person is fading away. And in its place, someone stronger, more confident, and more focused is emerging. But not everyone will be able to handle that change. Some will resist it, some will judge it, and some will even question your motives. What they don't realize is that your evolution isn't about them, it's about you. You're no longer living to meet other people's expectations, you're living to meet your own. And in order to do that, you have to make tough choices, choices that may not make sense to others, but that doesn't mean they're wrong choices. It means you're beginning to see your life from a perspective of growth and possibility, not obligation. As you distance yourself from certain relationships or stop being available all the time, you'll encounter criticism. Some may say you're being selfish. Some may say you've changed for the worse. They may even try to guilt trip you into being who you once were. But here's the thing, their misunderstanding of your journey doesn't diminish its value. In fact, it strengthens it, because if they truly understood, they would see that your growth isn't about leaving people behind. It's about creating space for the people who will grow with you. People who respect your boundaries, who understand the journey you're on, and who want to see you succeed. Misunderstanding comes with the territory of evolution. The people who love you may feel hurt or confused, but their discomfort is not your responsibility to fix. What you owe them is not your availability, but your authenticity. When you stop living for the approval of others, you start living for your truth. And that truth, though it may be misunderstood at first, is the very thing that will propel you forward. There's freedom in accepting that some people won't get it. They won't understand why you've become less accessible, why you no longer entertain every request, or why you're more focused on your own goals than their opinions. That's part of the process. You are not obligated to explain your evolution to those who are not ready to understand it. They may never understand it, and that's okay. What matters most is that you keep moving forward. You keep embracing who you are becoming, regardless of the noise or the misunderstanding, because in the end, those who truly matter will see your growth for what it is. They'll respect it, they'll appreciate it, and most importantly, they'll be there to support you as you continue to evolve into the person you were always meant to be. Discipline over distraction. This is where the shift happens. You realize that in order to get to where you want to go, you need to stop being pulled in 1,000 directions. Life is full of distractions, and they're more accessible than ever. Social media, news, people demanding your attention. All of it is designed to steal your focus, and if you're not careful, it will. But the people who succeed, the ones who get ahead, aren't the ones who bounce from one thing to the next. They're the ones who learn the art of discipline, the ability to say no to the things that don't serve them, so they can say yes to the things that will move them forward. In today's world, distraction is the enemy. It's easy to get sidetracked. You tell yourself you'll just check your email or scroll through a few posts for a minute, and before you know it, hours have passed. The time you could have spent on your goals has been siphoned off by distractions that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. But discipline is about choosing what's important and making sure that gets your attention. It's about creating boundaries and sticking to them, no matter how tempting the distraction may seem. The most successful people know this. They understand that time is the most precious resource they have, and they treat it with respect. They don't waste it on things that don't align with their goals or values. They don't let themselves get pulled into other people's drama or demands for their time. Instead, they stay focused on the tasks that will move them forward, even when it's hard. It's not always easy to say no to distractions, especially when they feel urgent or when you're being asked for your help. But this is where discipline is key. Saying no isn't about being selfish. It's about being focused. It's about being intentional with your time, energy, and resources so that you can create something meaningful. Discipline is also about creating habits that support your goals. You don't just wish for success, you build it through consistent action. That means showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. It means doing the work, even when there's no immediate reward. It's not glamorous and it's not always fun, but discipline means you're willing to put in the effort day in and day out because you know that's what it takes to get where you want to go. It's about sticking to a routine, making sure you're always moving toward your objectives. Whether that means waking up early to work on your goals, setting aside time to study, or cutting out activities that don't serve your vision, discipline is what keeps you on track. It's the difference between being reactive, drifting along, letting life happen to you, and being proactive, taking control of your life and shaping it into what you want it to be. The distractions will always be there, but your ability to resist them, to stay focused on what matters, is what will set you apart. The more disciplined you become, the more you'll realize that success isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's about understanding what's worth your time and energy and committing to it with everything you have. Discipline is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. And once you make it a habit, once you commit to it every single day, you'll find yourself living a life that others can only dream of. Unreachability attracts respect. It sounds counterintuitive at first, especially in a world that demands constant presence, immediate responses, and social media updates every minute. But there is a profound strength in making yourself unavailable, especially when you are working towards something meaningful. When you begin to take control of your time and set boundaries, people start to see you differently. They start to understand that you are no longer someone they can take for granted. You become a person whose presence holds weight because it's not readily available. Respect isn't something you demand directly. It's something that is earned through the value you add, the consistency you bring, and the way you handle your time and energy. When you're always there, always accessible, people tend to take you for granted. They don't see the value in what you have to offer because it feels abundant, almost disposable. But when you make yourself unreachable, it forces others to reconsider. Suddenly, your time becomes precious. Your thoughts, your perspective, and your efforts become something they can't just get whenever they feel like it. This shift is rooted in the power of scarcity. Think about it. What happens when something is scarce and becomes valuable? If you're always accessible, your energy is constantly being diluted, your focus is scattered, your intentions unclear, and your value is hidden beneath the noise of constant demands. But when you create space, when you become harder to reach, people realize they can't just have your attention at any given moment. They start to recognize that in order to earn your presence, they need to show that they value it. And that recognition is where respect begins. You begin to set the standard for how you will be treated, and it's a standard rooted in self-respect. When you make the choice to protect your time, your mental space, and your energy, you signal to the world that you know your worth. And whether people vocalize it or not, they start to respect you for it. They understand that you're not just handing out your attention for the sake of appeasing others or avoiding discomfort. You're holding your ground, staying focused on what truly matters, and prioritizing your own journey. It also attracts a higher level of conversation and interaction. When you stop responding to everything, when you become more selective with your time, people who genuinely respect you will step up. They'll stop expecting you to always be available, and instead, they'll recognize that your time is a privilege. Those who don't respect your boundaries, they'll fall away. And that's not a loss, it's a sign of growth. People who respect your space will treat it with care. They'll value the time they do get with you, and they'll engage with you in a more meaningful way. This is how respect works. It's not given, it's cultivated. When you become more intentional with your time, you become someone others value. You stop being just another face in the crowd, and you start becoming someone they admire for how you navigate your life and manage your boundaries. You become someone who demands respect, not by asking for it, but by living in a way that makes others see it's not optional. Let your results speak louder than your replies. This is one of the most powerful shifts you can make in both your personal and professional life. In today's world, we're often caught up in the need to explain ourselves, to justify our actions, or to seek validation from others, whether it's on social media, in the workplace, or even in personal relationships. There's an overwhelming pressure to show the world what you're doing and to make sure everyone knows your every move. But the reality is, you don't need to constantly explain your journey to anyone. Your results, the work you put in, the progress you make, and the impact you create will speak for itself. When you shift your focus away from constantly proving yourself and start focusing on producing real results, something incredible happens. People begin to take notice. The beauty of letting your results do the talking is that they're undeniable. They don't need to be defended. They don't require an explanation. Your success will become a reflection of your dedication, your discipline, and your ability to stay focused on what truly matters. And once you start achieving at a high level, others will start to see the difference. Think about the people you admire, the ones who have achieved greatness in any field. Do they constantly announce their next move or explain why they're doing something? No, they simply do the work. And over time, the results speak for themselves. Their actions, their accomplishments, and their growth become the loudest testament to their value and capabilities. You can do the same. When you constantly respond to every question or demand for your time, you lose your ability to direct your energy toward what really matters. You spend so much of your time talking about what you're going to do or what you're working on that you're not actually doing it. The focus shifts from the outcome to the process of explanation. But the truth is, no one cares about your excuses or justifications. They care about the outcome, the finished product, the value you bring to the table. Instead of responding to every little inquiry about your plans or your decisions, double down on the effort and let your results speak for themselves. It means being strategic with your time and energy. It means dedicating your focus to creating real value, solving problems, and making tangible progress. It means being so absorbed in your work that eventually, when people ask what you've been up to, your results are all the explanation they'll need. Your results will also show people your true level of commitment. People who are all talk and no action fade away quickly. But when you focus on producing results, you show the world that you're serious about your goals. You're not distracted by the noise, the opinions, or the need for validation. You're focused on what's in front of you, and you're steadily making progress. When people see that, they'll respect it. They'll see that you're not just saying you're capable, you're proving it every day through your work. Letting your results speak louder than your replies is a strategy for building a reputation that lasts. The things you accomplish will outlast any words you say, and when you do finally speak, when you share the story of what you've built or the milestones you've reached, it will have the weight and the credibility of everything you've done. People won't question your authenticity or your dedication. They'll see it loud and clear in the results you've delivered. When you become unreachable, you're not simply disappearing from the world. You're transforming into someone who values their own peace above the demands of others. This shift might initially seem like a step back or an act of retreat, but in reality, it's a form of powerful advancement. You're not removing yourself from life. You're creating the necessary space to grow, heal, and recalibrate. In a world that constantly asks for your attention, making yourself unreachable forces you to reclaim your personal sovereignty. In a society where being constantly accessible is seen as a sign of commitment or success, stepping away from the noise is often misunderstood. People may think you're being distant, cold, or unavailable. But what they fail to understand is that this space you've created is essential for your growth. It's in these moments of solitude that you reconnect with who you are beyond the roles you play or the expectations others have of you. You begin to define yourself not by how much you give, but by what you choose to give. This shift is crucial. It's about realizing that your energy is a precious resource that should be protected, nurtured, and directed with intention. Being unreachable is not about isolation for isolation's sake. It's not about cutting yourself off from the world entirely. It's about being selective with the interactions you allow into your life. It's about learning how to guard your time and energy so that when you do engage with the world, you do so fully and authentically. You start to understand that your presence in the world doesn't need to be a constant stream of availability. It's in the moments when you choose to show up that you make the most profound impact. This transformation happens when you begin to prioritize your internal growth over external validation. You stop seeking approval from others and start seeking approval from within. It's in the moments when you disconnect from the world that you reconnect with your true self, your deeper purpose, and your desires. You come to realize that when you're constantly available, you end up giving pieces of yourself away, sometimes to people or causes that don't align with your long-term vision. Becoming unreachable is the act of reclaiming those pieces and deciding where and how they should be shared. There's a profound power in this choice. People will begin to respect you more for setting clear boundaries. They will begin to value your time and attention, knowing it's not something that can be taken for granted. And while some may resist this shift, feeling rejected or hurt by your unavailability, those who genuinely respect you will understand. They'll know that your distance is not a sign of disdain, but a sign of self-care, focus, and commitment to the path you've chosen. In becoming unreachable, you create an environment where your personal growth can thrive. You no longer let every request, every call, or every invitation pull you away from your priorities. You cultivate a space where you can truly focus on what matters. Whether that's personal development, creative projects, or simply enjoying moments of peace. Over time, this becomes a lifestyle. You learn to prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical health, creating a balance that allows you to move through life with purpose and intent. Ultimately, becoming unreachable is not about rejecting others. It's about protecting your peace so that you can show up for the people and things that truly matter. It's about ensuring that when you do give of yourself, you're doing so from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. And when you can master this art of balance, of being selectively available, you'll find that your life becomes richer, more fulfilling, and more aligned with who you truly are. Becoming unreachable isn't about isolation, but about reclaiming your time, energy, and focus. It's about creating space for growth, setting boundaries, and prioritizing what truly matters. In doing so, you attract respect, deepen self-awareness, and ultimately build a life that aligns with your purpose and values.